This is Danielle Yawowiecka with the BBC News. Hello. A woman could within years become the head of the US military after President Biden nominated Admiral Lisa Franchetti to run the US Navy. Her appointment must still be confirmed by the Senate, as David Willis reports.
Lisa Franchetti would be the first woman to lead the US Navy and with it the first woman to become a member of the elite group of senior military officers who make up what's known as the Joint Chiefs of Staff. A 38-year veteran, she was only the second woman to achieve the rank of four-star admiral, and President Biden, in a statement, hailed what he called her extensive expertise both onshore and at sea. But her nomination has still to be confirmed by the Senate, and Republicans are currently blocking military appointments in protest at a policy that pays the travel expenses of service members who have to go out of state to have an abortion.
The Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has signed an order to tighten gun controls. It fulfills an election promise to check the surge in gun ownership promoted by his far-right predecessor Jair Bolsonaro. Limits will be placed on stockpiles of guns and ammunition, while certain weapons, including 9mm handguns, will be prohibited. The United States and European Union have expressed concern over the presidential election in Guatemala. The EU said attempts to overturn the results of last month's vote would damage Guatemala internationally. Here's Elsa Ochny.
International concern about democracy in Guatemala has been sparked by raids on the offices of the Electoral Commission and on the party of the runner-up in the first round. Bernardo Arevalo, who's campaigned against corruption, denounced Friday's police raid on the offices of his Semilla party as a show of political persecution. There have also been attempts to disqualify Mr Arevalo from taking part in next month's presidential runoff. He's set to face the former First Lady, Sandra Torres, who's supported by traditional elites.
The former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta has accused the government of his successor, William Ruto, of intimidating members of his family. Julian Bedford reports.
The Kenyan capital Nairobi was scarred by another day of demonstrations and clashes on Friday, and many in the government have accused Uhuru Kenyatta of funding the protest movement. He'd refused last year to back his former vice president, William Ruto, in his successful bid for the top job. Now Mr Kenyatta has hit back, accusing the government of seeking to intimidate him by raiding his son's house and withdrawing the security detail from his elderly mother. Kenya has a grim record of violence sparked by political rivalry.
BBC News. The US Vice President Kamala Harris has criticised those she called extremists in the state of Florida for backing educational guidelines that will teach revisionist history about slavery in the United States. The new curriculum includes instructions that slaves were not merely victims but were able to develop personal skills. They're being introduced after Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican presidential hopeful, vowed to campaign against what he called woke indoctrination. A member of the World Food Programme's staff has been killed in an attack in southern Yemen. A WFP statement described the Jordanian national Moayed Hamedi as a dedicated humanitarian. Orla Guerin reports.
Yemen has been a battleground for the past 8 years of war, but the killing of a foreign aid worker has caused shock here. The veteran humanitarian Moayed Hamedi from Jordan had come to the country only this month to head the World Food Programme office in Taiz. He was killed in broad daylight by 2 men on a motorbike. There's fresh concern now among international aid agencies which operate with caution here. Some may pause or even halt their work in and around Taiz, which could be what the attackers intended.
The South Korean military says North Korea has fired several cruise missiles into the Yellow Sea west of the Korean peninsula. The South Korean and US intelligence agencies are analysing the launches to know more about the type of missiles fired. The launch came 3 days after North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles into the East Sea. There have been bizarre scenes at a football match in Britain after a funeral hearse was driven onto the pitch by 2 masked men. The incident on Friday, during a pre-season clash between English lower division teams Dunstan UTS and Gateshead FC, forced the match to be abandoned. The motive is not yet clear. BBC News.